Bene, grazie per essere rientrati. Giornata faticosissima, però ne vale la pena. Siamo in notevole ritardo, quasi un'ora rispetto alla tabella di marcia, però davvero questo ultimo intervento del pomeriggio merita la massima attenzione. Anche perché dobbiamo essere grati al professor Sari Hanafi di essere stato tra tutti i relatori stranieri previsti dal nostro programma quello che è stato più presente a tutte le nostre sedute. Ma guardate che questo non è avvenuto solo qui. Io sono testimone del fatto che a Melbourne, lui che pure come presidente dell'International Zoological Association aveva tantissime questioni da risolvere, ha partecipato praticamente a tutte le sessioni che si svolgevano, non nel senso che ha partecipato a migliaia di sessioni, cioè ogni giorno, dalla mattina alla sera, era presente in una delle diverse sessioni. Davvero esempio luminosissimo di impegno, di serietà, di dedizione e anche, come dire, di apertura. Quell'apertura che noi, con l'invito a lui rivolto, in qualche maniera cerchiamo di mostrare, di implementare, perché usciamo un po' fuori dal seminato nostro occidentale, eurocentrico, cattolicocentrico, perché con il professor Sari Hanafi noi ci affacciamo al di là del Mediterraneo, verso la Siria, paese suo d'origine, la Palestina dove ha vissuto e il Libano dove in questo momento risiede e insegna alla American University of Beirut. Ed è responsabile dell'Islamic Studies Program, quindi diciamo un fronte, un ambito, un contesto che certamente interagisce anche con la nostra realtà italiana ed europea, ma che ha evidentemente delle proiezioni, delle prospettive che vanno ben al di là della stessa area del Mediterraneo. Adesso parlerà, ma voi non ci crederete, lui non è sociologo di formazione, lui è un ingegnere civile, uno che costruisce le case ed è a partire da questa sua formazione che ha sviluppato un fortissimo interesse sociologico. In particolare impegnandosi sul discorso della universalità come incontro fra nazioni in modo da ottenere sull'universalità non il successo di una sola linea di visione, di Weltanschauung, di concezione del mondo, ma un consenso su diverse visioni incrociate tra di loro, grazie all'esperienza storica e grazie anche al flusso dinamico dell'incontro tra le persone. C'è una iniziativa della International Zoological Association, Global Dialogue, voluta in modo particolare da Michael Baravoy, il promotore della public sociology di cui anche il professor Hanafi in qualche misura è un esponente. Di una sociologia che si muove non solo sulla base di una triplice elica, ma su una base di una quadruplice etica, perché oltre all'università, all'industria e al governo, il professor Hanafi dice che occorre aggiungere la società civile. Ecco, il concetto di civil society fa parte del suo vocabolario, della sua maniera di affrontare le questioni sociologiche. E tutto questo in una chiave anti-autoritaria e in modo particolare post-secolare. Ecco perché in qualche misura a lui è anche piaciuto il mio testo, come dire, che va al di là della secolarizzazione. Frequentazioni non solo del mondo, come dire, al di là del Mediterraneo, ma in modo particolare della Francia. Strasburgo, Parigi, École des hautes études en sciences sociales, Poitiers, e ha insegnato anche a Bologna, anche a Ravenna, ha fatto dei corsi, ha fatto dei seminari, anche in Norvegia, a Bergen, famosa università, a Doha, quindi ovviamente in un mondo a lui più consono, mondo arabo, al Cairo, quindi sostanzialmente, come dire, è uno studioso a tutto tondo, a 360 gradi, che lavora sul tema della conoscenza, delle religioni, delle migrazioni, della politica della ricerca, e forse anche per questo è stato molto apprezzato ed eletto presidente dell'International Sociological Association, molto sensibile anche al discorso dell'elite, al tema della giustizia. Ma se volessi proprio caratterizzare un po' il suo lavoro di sociologo, io direi la sua analisi partecipata, attenta, curiosa ma anche appassionata dei campi dei rifugiati. Questo lo ha portato anche ad avere visioni molto allargate. È consulente delle Nazioni Unite, ma anche della World Bank. Quindi, come vedete, siamo in presenza di uno studioso che veramente vale la pena di compulsare, di ascoltare con particolare attenzione. Io chiedo al professor Hanafi di parlare lentamente, chiaramente, in modo che tutti possano capire. Poi dopo abbiamo Vera Kopsai, finalmente ho saputo che l'accento è sulla prima sillaba, che ci aiuterà eventualmente per la traduzione se voi volete porre qualche domanda e magari avete difficoltà ad esprimervi. Allora, ciò detto, un ultimo passaggio. Il professor Hanafi è noto soprattutto per un concetto, il concetto di speciocide, cioè di spazio che uccide, di uno spazio che viene ucciso. Allora voi immaginate quella sorta di ghetto, quella sorta di campo di concentramento per qualche maniera, per qualche misura, che è la striscia di Gaza, che è il confinamento dei palestinesi. E lasciatemi anche aggiungere che è vero, lui è uno strenuo difensore della causa dei palestinesi, ma lo fa in modo garbato, come dire, non oltranzista, da vero sociologo che ha anche una dimensione, come dire, avalutativa e quindi scientificamente corretta. Io spero che il professor Hanafi abbia capito gran parte di quello che ho detto, nel senso che ormai è abituato a frequentare questi nostri contesti, e quindi a questo punto vado direttamente alla lettura di quello che è il testo che ci presenterà con il titolo Do the Social Science Resist Pathologies of Late Modernity? Question mark. To you.
Thank you so much, Roberto, for your generous introduction, for the invitation. I'm so honored to be with you all, and thank you. Really, I'm really touched. So, can I have the PowerPoint, please? And yes. I will try to show some image. Maybe this to facilitate the understanding. But if you feel at a certain point I need to slow down or repeat things, please tell me. So I go from the premises that we live in late modernity, that it has its own beauty. All the technology we handle, all the encounter we have, this is really thanks to modernity. But it's also, specifically in late modernity, has some pathologies that I am sensitive to some of them, and I will go through them. So no need to convince you that how authoritarianism has been spread specifically in the global south, but not only. And also populism you find in global north. Many examples we have in mind. Some argue nowadays in Italy, including. But also in political sphere, we should highlight that people move to the right. If you look to, where is, I think it's here. Yeah, you don't see it. If you go through the color, the blue color, you see how it's spread, and some areas since this map was designed, I think there is a change, always to bring more blue on it. But particularly what is really important is moving to more in populist right. And just to take the case of Europe, a study done by Jean-Eric Gridheim, he's a Danish political scientist, showing that in the last 4 elections in Europe, all 6 countries, established democracy in Europe, all the number of voters who vote for the populist right increased, except Norway. And actually the last election of Norway make even Norway is not anymore an exception. In socioeconomic sphere, also, I don't need to convince you how inequality increased, precarity, exclusion. But what is really new is among middle class. And what we give to our kids is less what our parents give us, if you like. There is many studies in this, and more violence. Look to what happened in France in the last 3 protests, les gilets jaunes, the retirement, and the police violence. So it's more and more protestation is violence, and the reaction of the state on it. In cultural sphere, but in fact it's a political cultural sphere, what really for me important is a hierarchical polarization of society. Society have been divided since ages, okay? So it's not new. But what is new is really this polarization and the intolerance of debate, no space, common space for people to talk. I will give you evidence in this in a few minutes. So if you like, there is a force behind this, and I identify them in 3, if you like. This intensification of neoliberalism, which mean financialization, more retreat of the state to provide public service, mobility of everything except a human being, and so on. But also emotional capitalism, where I will stop a little bit, and the crisis of liberal democracy. And all my talk will be particularly about the last forces of this malaise, of these pathologies of late modernity. Let's a few words about emotional capitalism, which mainly is a commodification of emotion and intrusion of capitalism into private spheres. I love so much the work of a friend, Eva Illouz. She is a French and Israeli based in Paris. Wrote in her book about emotional capitalism, emotional uncertainty in the realm of love, romance, and sex, and the direct sociological effect of the ways in which the consumer market, therapeutical industry, and the technology of the internet has been assembled and embedded by the ideology of individual choice. That has become the main cultural frame organizing personal freedom. So is it really now what we witness today in the time of post-1968 social revolution, sexual revolution? Is it really personal choice has been increased? I think we need to go back in the 70s, where Raymond Williams, a socialist and literary critic and British writer, Raymond Williams, talk about structure of feeling, that we don't understand today our feeling, the feeling of the other, anger, anything, disgust, love, anything, without see how there is a structure behind this feeling, and there is a force playing role that people are in this state of mind. So we need not take things on face value that, wow, today the personal choice that we choose whatever we want on our relationship, social relationship, love, etc. Recently, I reread the book of Anthony Giddens, The Transformation of Intimacy, which I love, by the way, and I think he wrote it in 1992, and he was very optimistic about this plastic sexuality, about this equal relationship between man and woman, etc. So I am a little bit more. I have a mixed feeling today in the 21st century. So if you like, I am asking this question, many questions I have, whether social science have a good response on the pathologies of late modernity. I argue that much of the production of social science, and particularly sociology, has a really inadequate response to these pathologies. And I argue that, that I can characterize this inadequate response by classically liberal but politically illiberal. I will explain this because it's a little bit complex, and I will argue that we can work on that to go beyond what Michael Barraway talked about, public sociology, to engage in a dialogical sociology, and I will explain what I mean by that. In no way I am saying that late modernity is a production of us sociologists. No, it's if you like, it's a media, it's a sector of law, in sector of politics, all become classically liberal but politically illiberal. So it's not only us, if you like, it's really, there is a major force where if you like, weaken our response to late modernity, pathology of late modernity. Let me just to qualify what I am saying, that in fact, we are not talking about business as usual. I think what happened in the last 15 years is such acceleration of this polarization in society, the intolerance on the debate in a remarkable way. So if you like, the first things I would say that, in fact, more and more, we don't expose argument, but position. You say, I'm a left, I don't talk with those of 5 stars supporter. I don't talk with this fascisto religious people. I don't talk with X, with Y, okay? So this is, if you like, this reply not by argument, but by positioning. Okay, and I think the cancel culture is something really serious. So it's not something, even if this is the discourse of the right wing against the left wing, you will see how I qualify this serious trend of cancel culture. And I argue, of course, that it's a product of both the conservative and the left, and not only the left alone. So just to be in the same page about what is cancel culture, it's an intolerance of opposing view, a vogue for public shaming and ostracism, and the tendency to dissolve complex policy issues in a blinding moral certainty, okay? And what aggravates this, that in fact with the commodification of higher education, so related to neoliberalism, students become client. And we, Roberto and myself, we need to satisfy you and satisfy everyone, exactly like in the supermarket. So the administration in many places went into what we called culture of safetyism. Of course, it's less where you have a state universities in Italy and France, but when you go worldwide, really this kind of Americanization of higher education, you see it strongly, how administration play a role that everybody should be satisfied, nobody should be hurt. If you are Armenian, and I dare as a historian to show a text of a Turkish scholar showing that maybe it was not a genocide, but a massacre, okay? So you heard the feeling of the students, and you can get a warning in the United States, for instance. So this is where, if you like, what I witnessed. So let me go into 2 examples where really they shan't the academic freedom, United States and France, to show you that how cancel culture really spreading among the academia of these 2 countries. And intolerance of debate, there is an association in the United States to monitor the campus. It's called Foundation for Individual Right and Education. It become an expression. This FIRE monitor all the incidents go against faculty. When faculty, they are undermining their freedom of expression. And so they look to the incidents, any warning, investigation, suspension, termination, disinvitation. You have a lot of disinvitation. A lecture will be in the campus, and then some group will go and say we don't want them. So we move from 30 cases in 2015 to last year to 149, almost 150. Last year in the United States, you have 420 disinvitations. Okay, yesterday I was in
Sapienza University, I learned that Bob Ratzinger was disinvited, for instance, was not allowed by a student to enter, okay? And so this kind of things, I mean, that I consider it is part of cancel culture. So why the reason, almost quarter for a question of gender, for a question of partisanship, of criticism of institutional policy of the university, things like that. According to FIRE, that the 2/3 of the incidents come from the left. From the left of those who were investigated. So the left who are more, if you like, going into. I question this, and I show, I'm sensitive where today in United States, but not only in United States, in UK as well, where there is no debate about Arab-Palestinian conflict. That is, whenever there is a Palestinian speaker, outspoken, wanted to give a talk in a university, you have a group of students, they will say, they will send to administration to cancel the culture. And I saw 3 letters sent by the provost to organizer of these talks, say that this talk will hurt the feeling of some of our students. So who are these whose feeling has been hurt? And what about the other? So just to tell you that really there is a kind of a cancel culture, and this group often come from the right and not from the gauche. So it's a little bit. Let me come closer to France, where you know the debate worldwide about post-colonialism, about decolonialism, the colonial studies. Roberto today highlight one of my writing where I am critical of some of the post-colonial studies. But if you like, what is very interesting that in fact there is a witch hunting in France against what they call decolonialism. So it's a very interesting if you look in the last 5 years, I myself, and I don't live in France, but from time to time I look to the newspapers. There is 12 statements by academics against another academics. I'm so honored that Roberto invited Michel Viviorca. Michel Viviorca, who is long-standing, really the expert on racism and anti-Semitism, he said in one of the interviews that he's glad that anti-Semitism in France going down, and you have around 100 scholars write a statement. They don't talk with him. They write a statement in I forgot which newspaper, Le Figaro or Libération, etc., to denounce him publicly. There is no talks. There is just on taxing him of complacency with and unaware. And I mean, a very strong word is used. So what I'm interested here that there is 76 professors. They create observatory of decolonialism against pseudoscience. And actually, what is interesting, they changed it recently, 6 months ago, to become observatory for identitarian ideology, something like that. So they denounce Black Matters movement and things similar to this. So they organize an international conference after deconstruction. It's time for restoring science. This is the title, if you like. So what is interesting, was in the Sorbonne last year. And it's inaugurated by the Ministry of of Education in that time, Jean-Michel Blanquet. So you see, so it's also a kind of unofficial things. What was interesting, and in this conference, of course, where the new word emerged, what is the new word? Is Islamo-gauchist. Those who don't think like us, they are supporter of the Islamists and the terrorists. Okay, and the minister ordered later on a commission to see whether there is a researcher and the public funding going to Islamo-gauchists. So what is interesting that a few weeks before the conference, I found in the newspapers a statement taxing a human rights organization like Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and the scholar who analyze what the current Israeli colonial practice. If you analyze it as apartheid, it's an anti-Semitism. And this is anti-Semitism, if you read in French, anti-Semitism, this is the statement. La question israélo-palestinienne ne doit pas être l'exutoire des passions primaires. If we say apartheid, we are, it's so emotional. It's anti-Semitic. So I found those who participate in this conference who is against the cancel culture exercise cancel culture against the other. So this shows you that, in fact, it's not really true. You don't understand it by saying this is more a leftist movement. It's really something, a disease in our campuses and in our. So if you like, let me now say how I locate this symbolic liberals. So I will call those who are classically liberal and politically liberal symbolic liberals, okay? A nice word. There is no value judgment inside, okay? So this is deliberately. So if you like, these are, what the meaning classically liberal? Since Jean-Luc, you know that really what is important is the personal liberties, the civic equality, so the two keywords, and also the individual autonomy as a moral person, if you like, or we can talk about personal integrity. And freedom of expression, freedom of religion, freedom of association, all this is really was extremely important since Jean-Luc, but before even a little bit with Rousseau, with other, that they established this, if you like, liberalism. But I think beyond this kind of universal message of the importance of the individual and individual liberty and equality, Jean Rawls in 1971 published a book. It's the most commented in the in the 20th century. I mean, he has two books. They are the most influential in political and moral philosophy. Jean Rawls insists in the question of conception of justice. And he has this conception of two principles of justice. First, we have all the same opportunity, but then society should redistribute wealth for those who are disadvantaged. So you have the principle of equality and the principle because we don't have the same talent, the same opportunity, we didn't born in a metropolitan place, etc. So we need redistribution of wealth. So this was really the conception of social justice become inherent part by liberalism. Of course, I hope the Italian don't understand liberalism like a French. French, they quickly think about capitalism and no, it is about social view. It's not about, only private property. Private property, of course, part of the liberalism. Now, what is very interesting also, that in fact, while society should agree in the conception of justice, he admits that state should be neutral vis-a-vis the conception of the good. So just to understand what is the difference between conception of the good and conception of the justice, the good is really what is your aim in life. What would you like to drink every day, eating, dressing, do in your spare times. So this is a conception of the good. So Jean Rawls, he theorized the theory, the justice like this. However, later on, he realized that we live. So in fact, classical liberalism, if I want to summarize it, it looks like this: like social justice and universal human rights debated in the public spheres, in order debated in public spheres, the conception of the good debated in public spheres, and we have law, but also society has a moral reasoning. I mean, not everything is regulated by law, okay? So this is, if you like, and the culture, not really important. I mean, the classical liberals were really very, if you like, universalist, okay? Now, later on, Rawls realized that we live in the age of plurality, that it's not true that we have one conception of the good, that the conception of the good is pluralistic. So if you like, his book in early 90s, Political Liberalism, where he argued that there is a multiple conception of the good, and now how we will resolve this different conception of the good when they are conflicting, that we use a public reason. Any, if you like, accessible arguments that you can use. And he argued that we think that it's impossible to reach an agreement, but sociologically, this is the only time he used the word sociologically in his almost 500 page. He is a philosopher. He is not into, yeah. So he said, so just to give an example, that we may think that we need to, that in Rome, it should be no homeless, okay? So you may use a very Catholic argument about your neighbor, about your, okay. You may use a Republican one. You say, I don't want to see my compatriot, my homeless. You may use very utilitarian arguments, saying that if there is a lot of homeless, this will affect the tourism in Rome. So if you like, the three arguments different, but we reach somehow that we need to do something in common. So if you like, and political liberalism, we started talking about culture, but I think the neoliberal and the emotional capitalism is really affecting the whole process. So what, of course, Jean Rawls has been modified by many authors, but I think all they remain in the political liberalism. Now, what happened today? What happened today? That in fact, I will start by the notion of justice. Social justice shrinked. You see that really class analysis is not really important for many social scientists. The question become very fragmented. We think in terms of race, gender, region more than really socially class. Sorry, and of course, why we have a specific role as a social scientist in the social justice issue, because I refer to the work of Musa al-Gharbi. He is American African. He just published a book in Princeton about symbolic capitalism, saying that, look, we in social science, we professor of university, we don't have a material, we don't have a jaguar, okay? We don't have a beautiful house, but we have a symbolic power. Symbolic power that as we can write, we influence, we like media writer, journalist writer. Not only he is not talking about academic professor, but he said he did his study in the United States showing wherever you have universities, big universities of the left, you have more social inequality in the United States. And whenever you have a Republican, if you like, more right-wing scholar in a place, you have more social inequality. It's very interesting. You read it, it's really, it's very, very commented, his work. So if you like, this is why I take seriously when we, with our symbolic capital, that we don't care about social justice. This is, if you like, this is. And of course, you can refer to the book, Cultural, The Death of the Left. We're arguing that left forgot the issue of material inequality and go into cultural one. It's become, for these two authors, become like cultural left, and there is no material left. So, if you like, symbolic liberalism, the problem that emerged, the human rights concept is changed. Before we talking about big group, we talk about human rights for a people, for Palestinian, for refugee, for etc. Now more and more we talk about small group. Society is divided into subculture. Society is more identity politics. So everyone want to put a wall surrounding this group, say nobody should touch me. So, and the problem that what extended is the universality of human rights. Human rights is not anymore taken as abstract conception. For instance, Universal Declaration of Human Rights is not binding. It's not law. It's principles. No discrimination against gender, race, etc. But they didn't say more. So they become like, there is organization, there is idea that should be applied in Italy as well as in Africa, in Lebanon, in the Arab world in the same way. So no culture. Here, if you like, the idea that the culture weaken on this regard. Now, what happened also? This group that classically liberal and politically illiberal, they started taking some issues related to the conception of the good and package it as a conception of the right, a conception of the justice. Let me give example. Whether the veil in France, which is a basic conception of the dress, is a basic conception of the conception of the good. People dress whatever they want. This is packaged as a conception of, by the symbolic liberals, conception of justice. They consider it like discrimination against women. This is why they ban it in the school. There is no job for veiled women in public office. Today is abaya before burkini, etc. All this is, if you like, is not only packaging a specific conception of good as a conception of justice, but also because they can issue laws, become hegemonic and marginalizing the other conception of the good. What happened next? What happened that they, through formal public sphere, of course, they enforcing the universality of human rights, the identity politics right, and this hegemonic conception of justice, of the good, and then issue more and more issuing law at the expense of the fluidity of moral reasoning in the society. I strongly suggest that you read the book, amazing book of Olivier Roy, published a few months ago. It's called L'aplatissement du monde, how the extension of the norm, how norms is extended at the expense of the moral fluidity of moral reasoning. And what, for me, what is really important, that how more and more negative feeling become like source of law. I don't know if you are familiar with the work of Martha Nussbaum, American philosopher, her book, Hiding from Humanity, about disgust, and how disgust become, is a very normal that somebody discussed, something disgust me. I mean, disgust, the anthropologists say, is part of the pure and the impure. What is not really normal, when if I disgust, I will issue a law against it. So I think the French today, they disgust from the veil. And they issue law by this negative emotion. And of course, I bring example from France because I study there. I still part of the academia somehow there. But I can bring from Lebanon also, where just in July, there is incident that a lady wanted to swim with a bikini, and it was the conservative group prohibited her to swim. And what is interesting, I looked to the Wasat group of this conservative people, where they use extensively the word is disgusting. What is swimming in a bikini is disgusting. Should be, of course, should be banned. Yeah. So you see, this is where if you like this become a sweeping phenomenon. So again, what Olivier Roy in his book L'aplatissement du monde argue that more and more there is normativity has even no axiological purpose for the good. You sue someone just because you have the power to sue. You know, in the United States, how the machine of suing the other for small things, for etc. So, and the question that there is erasure of anthropological culture. It's not only, if you like, not culture as a product. Of course, the culture as a product is there, but the anthropological pole of the culture, it means the shared meaning, how we negotiate, how historically, if we want to make a party, we knock to the door of the neighbor and we ask them that we have a birthday, you are most welcome. We will stay until midnight and not 10. Now, one of the studies show that how shocking in France today that the first comer at 10 10:05 is the police, and to give you a fine. So this is, if you like, this is how I describe the problem. Now, of course, the other who are not part of this hegemonic group, they will create their own public sphere. If you are if you are in Syria, in Tunisia, in Egypt, your public spheres is a Facebook. Definitely, it's virtual. But in France, and etc., it's a community. So you refer to your community, you etc. So if you like, in the name of republicanism, which is chanted by Macron and by all these French politicians, they divide the society more. Okay, so this is, if you like, what is my argument about what is going on with this symbolic liberal project. Now, simply, I said, look, can we do something? Yes, we can do something. This is what I call dialogical political liberal project. This project should be, rehabilitate the social justice. And let me also refer to the work of Michel Viviorca, who is rightly in his last book argued that there is a problem now with intersectional approach. Historically, it's amazing. I mean, we should thank the feminist scholars who introduced intersectionality. But intersectionality become like now, as a discourse, is giving a lip service to the social class. So as you start by gender, race, sexuality, and then it becomes like a social class is as small things. So we need to reverse the order, where we always think on terms of really what is shared by everyone living in Rome, and then we go to say, look, there is an issue of gender, there is an issue against Roma people, there is an issue and things like that. So there is question of social justice to rehabilitate the importance of social justice. Universal human rights is very important, but as an abstract concept and not as a concrete concept. It should be Italian human rights system, Lebanese one, Afghani one, and so on. And of course, all should be under the eye of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So the conception of the good is there, and a public sphere. But again, a dialogical project is a not idealistic project. It's not a kind of a classical Christian colleague, Christian project, if you like, that no violence. No, you cannot establish a dialogue if there is no minimal question of power, minimal equilibrium of power. This is why sometimes social movement is extremely important. This is why a revolution sometimes is also important. So it's impossible to dialogue before establishing, before a heavy dose of violence. So, and then it's a way of minimizing, be aware of the emotional capitalism and how affect us, rehabilitate the culture, and of course, not only that we need the law to be legified, so we need less law, but more ethics, if you like, ethics in a sense, or fluidity of the morality. Just I would like to take you to Montesquieu, when he wrote about the Europe and Middle Age, how the different tribes regulate commerce. He called it du commerce, because even when they are so, there is so different as a tribe, nevertheless, they reach some du commerce, but also I think we need more conviviality, more resonance to talk like Helmut Rosa, more social love to talk like Silva Cataldi and Gennaro Ioros, and so on. Now, let me finish. I will not really, but just briefly show you some application of this dialogical project and going into a controversial topic. You will see it. So just to tell you that there is an issue really to be raised today. So first of all, when we think about social classes, we need a minimum wage for everyone, but then a lot of things should be discussed modestly as a conception of the good. I grew up quarter of century as a refugee. So I am refugees, okay? I grew up a Palestinian refugee in Syria. But I do understand how society established priority for the national, for the world. So if you like, really I think much of the debate today is amalgamating conception of the good with the multiplicity of the conception of the, the conception of the justice, the unicity of conception of justice, and the multiplicity of conception of the good. About the environment, let's to say, today, consumption is part of the conception of the good. I think we need a serious discussion in society to put it as a part of the environmental justice. So to become part of the justice. So if you like, there is a work today to do what is historically considered like, okay, we are free to do whatever you want, but in fact we are not free. You have this emotional capitalism behind us, neoliberalism, that in fact to acknowledge this, it means that we need to work on justice. So now, just to give you, I think one of the problem of symbolic liberals that is destroying the family authorities. Again, all my concept is about this entangling concept. Is we need to disentangle political liberalism to make it less individualistic and more communitarian. Disentangle religion to make it more, to see what element of religion can be, can bring, can compatible with minimal secularism and liberal project. The same thing for family. Family, I am not fetishizing family, but I see we have so much evidence how today late modernity is destroying the family authorities. Just to give you example, I studied Sweden. I found that last year, 3 years ago, this is an official statistics. There is 35,000 kids removed from their home. 19,500, they were rehomed, brought to other home. This to show you that it's a business, it's no regard what is a family, and of course when it was some demonstration, especially from migrant community, they said that it's a campaign waged by violent Islamist organization. And when I investigate this campaign, I saw that it's a human rights organization from Sweden who I found so much criticism. Even European Court of Human Rights, they criticize heavily Sweden and even Denmark and other countries, but specifically Sweden, that their conception of the family is really problematic. it's a very interesting when I give this talk in Melbourne, and I ask my colleague, a Sweden colleague, who were there in the World Congress of Sociology, whether they can challenge me in this data. And they have something. Nobody raised a hand, and in the reception, a woman in a family studies, she came and she told me, look, do you think we can talk about this in Stockholm? I mean, it's amazing. I mean, this is really what shocked me more, this intolerance of the debate. It's impossibility to talk about this kind of things. So if you like, this is where I think we have the courage to say we need to think whether really individualistic political liberalism is really can sustained in our society, can undermine this pathology of late modernity. My last example about sexual identity LGBTQ. I think we need to distinguish between conception of justice, which is really a fundamental. It's no discrimination against anyone for sexual orientation, okay? But, and including multiple family, and I'm glad that in Europe they progress in this direction. But what I contest, whether, take the World Cup in Qatar, whether really visibility, to have a visibility, is a part of the conception of justice or simply is a conception of the good. If it is conception of the good, this should be discussed culturally within the society. I think you Italian, me French, Palestinian, we should be outspoken against criminalization of the gay community in Qatar, like in other countries, okay, in the Arab world. So it's not, I am not saying if you criticize, you are culturally imperialist. But if today you ask the Qatari to, that you say, we need to have the flag, rainbow flag, this is absolutely cultural imperialism because it's a conception of justice and conception of the good. And conception of the good should be discussed within the society. I strongly encourage you to read the book of Joseph Mas'ad. He is professor at Columbia University, his book, Desiring Arab, where he showed, for instance, how he labeled them international gay lobby, that Western, he called it international gay, that for him, for Joseph Mas'ad, for Joseph Mas'ad, this harmed so much the gay community, and he is among them. He considered that homosexuality lived in the Arab world in a certain level of tolerance, as far as it's a private matter. And actually, by the way, I lived 7 years on the Corniche in Lebanon, and I was walking every day. I rarely, I mean, maybe in the 7 years, 2 or 3 times, I saw man and woman kiss each other. Maybe not much even holding hands. I mean, it's again, it's a part of culturally was a decency. Again, I'm not defending this. I'm just saying when a human rights organization come and say, no, we need the same-sex marriage, we need the visibility. This is so harmful to how culturally today the Arab world, for instance, deal with the question of homosexuality and transgender. So I finish just to say that let me finish with Michael Walzer saying that universality is a human right is really important. I don't take it lightly, but it should be considered as a thin morality. The thickness should be worked culturally in each conditions. This is where his book about thick and thin morality. And he argued why it is important, if it is thin, to have this universality. Because me grow up in Syria, I dream every day that the Italian, the European defend the Syrian people against that tyranny of Bashar al-Assad. Me as a Palestinian, also I dream that international community come to end what is recognized as an occupation in Palestinian territories, and so on. So I think universality is very important. So I am not throwing, if you like, my message is not the culture is to create a kind of so simply to say that sociologists, social scientists should be normative. There is a moment, like Professor Abdel Malik said, I think very well today, 2 days ago, that there is an objective moment, there is a normative moment, but I think there is a dialogical moment. Dialogical moment, it means that you need to be modest and listen to the debate about conflicting conception of the good in your society, because the truth is not only philosophical, it's sociological. The procedure more important than the outcome. All this should be thought by us instead of just chanting civil society, civil society. Thank you.
I think that tonight we have really entered the coming society. This is the scene of future. This is what we have to expect for, to wait for. Because the proposal coming from Professor Sarjanafi is a different approach in sociological terms. I mean, we need a dialogical sociology, a sociology which considers the situations without expressing previous value judgments. We are exactly in line with Max Weber, but also with, for instance, Kurt Wolf, Surrender and Catch. Credo che questo contributo del professor Sarjanafi davvero giunga al punto giusto di questa nostra scuola. Mi pare un punto di svolta perché ci apre verso orizzonti diversi da quelli abituali, non particolarmente frequentati dalla sociologia. Certamente la problematica LGBTQ+ sta emergendo in maniera evidente, però io credo che insieme con questo vada anche esaminato tutto l'insieme dei problemi che emergono con questa strisciante, almeno così possiamo capire da quando dice il professor Anafi, morte delle famiglie, no? L'esempio svedese è emblematico. I ragazzi vengono espunti dal contesto familiare e allocati in un contesto diversificato, il che, lo facciamo subito, l'esempio è paragonabile con l'esperienza dei kibbutz in Palestina, che sapete hanno dato luogo anche ad esiti in alcuni casi disastrosi. sino a vedere lo stesso ideologo intellettuale Bettelheim morire suicida rispetto a quella che era stata la sua impostazione. Dunque noi abbiamo di fronte tutta una serie di tematiche che io ho cercato di annotare, di riassumere, e che però meritano anche una nostra attenta considerazione anche attraverso delle letture, perché il professor Anafi ha indicato dei testi, quindi io invito poi a rivedere la registrazione nella prossima settimana, perché certamente il test di Joseph Massad, The Syrian Arabs, credo che valga la pena essere letto, come pure l'altro testo, per chi è più pronto a leggere in francese, L'aplatissement du monde di Olivier Roy, pubblicato da Seuil a Parigi, e ancora un classico che poi orienta molto delle nostre possibili riflessioni, cioè A Theory of Justice di John Rawls. Insomma, abbiamo di fronte a noi anche delle letture importanti da recuperare, se per caso in precedenza non le avessimo già fatte. Io non voglio andare avanti perché qui avrei tantissime altre considerazioni, però ecco, mi pare che questo sia il contenuto essenziale, che vedete è in stretta continuità con le altre relazioni che abbiamo avuto questi giorni. Cioè ancora una volta si parla di capitalismo, ancora una volta si parla di liberali, di neoliberalismo, che diventano symbolic liberals, come li ha definiti il professor Sarianafi. E in fondo tutto questo cos'è? Symbolic capitalism. Un capitalismo che è stato così capace di raggiungere i suoi obiettivi per cui noi ci troviamo all'interno di certe modalità senza nemmeno accorgercene. Cioè è stata talmente forte la costruzione sociale della realtà capitalistica che noi non ne siamo consapevoli. Cioè siamo abituati a pensare come il solito, e pensare come il solito è un pensare simbolico liberale, simbolico capitalista. Ecco, mi pare che questo sia almeno, diciamo, lo spunto principale che in fondo il professor Anafi ci ha voluto suggerire. Ma lascio adesso lo spazio per i vostri interventi. Ecco.
Thank you, Professor, for your speech. I really enjoyed it. I wanted to pay attention to the structure of feelings. I was thinking, I don't really have a question, it's just sharing some reflections. I was thinking, if the dialogical capacity is missing, we haven't been really able to dominate our passions, our primary passions, such as fear, shame, proud. So, and in the last months, I published, it was published one of my articles about the war in Ukraine, and the key of interpretation was the feelings of proud and shame as one of the things that move people to make bad choices. And in this case, for example, I'm really sad to say it clearly that discrimination, racism are still so powerful, because with this kind of openness that we have with globalization, with the web society, in the web society, with internet, it's so paradoxal still to be, I don't know, to have this kind of fear for somebody or for a culture that we don't know. we make research for things that really, for example, for creams or things that they don't change our life. But we are not curious to search about the culture of who stands on our side. So, and this is really sad, and I think, turning a little back to Stein, we're talking about Edith Stein with a colleague, it's like we didn't work much on our personal growth, individual growth. Because I think if we have all these conflicts of all the world, we have an ongoing war now, it means that on a personal level, we didn't work enough. Thank you.
I didn't develop this, but I fully agree with you. And, but just to say that we call this now this era is an emotional turn era. Okay, so emotion really become important. Our role as a sociologist, like Eva Illouz, she said that for a long time we consider the psyche of people is a question, or sexuality is a question of psychology. And they say, no, it's a matter of sociology. We need to know whether there is a capitalism that aggravates some emotion, demonize some emotion, and things like that. Now, today, I mean, again, I didn't have time to talk, but I work on gender fluidity, if you like. I mean, gender fluidity people, they come to say the following. They say, you traditionalists, you religious people, you believe on binary, man and woman, okay? And sometimes people can be mixed, okay? So, okay, but is a few cases. Now you come, now we, gender fluidity people, will tell you we don't want this organization of society, male or female. We are for social change, unless it change this, that there is no male and female. What I am arguing that, for instance, this idea, behind it is a pharmaceutical lobby. Behind it is an amazing force of capitalism. It's not really a simple personal choice of people that they suddenly decided that today we are 60% male, 40% female, or vice versa. So this is, if you like, where I put my finger on it, to say we need not to be naive, and gender fluidity has its own metaphysics, exactly like conservative people think that premarital sex is something not good, is a normative, okay? It's normative, and there is metaphysics, religious metaphysics behind it. Those who say that the desire and the pleasure is absolute, it's also behind it is a metaphysical conception. What is the life? The idea that my body is my business, which I understand how it emerged. It emerged like a reaction to a kind of confining women in a space and enclosed, etc. But then, if it's take to no limitation, etc., it become like a certain metaphysics, because again, I can extend more, but just to say, this is what for me the structure of feeling is very important, that we should not look to what is going today like something is so obvious. And the changing curriculum for kids in the school is infringing in the conception of the good, which should be pluralistic. And this should be debated in the society and not imposed by symbolic liberals, as I see. If we don't do this, we wait for the world to be like Italy. I mean, Giorgia Meloni come and say, I am Georgia, I am Italian, I am a Catholic, and I am a woman. And this is, I mean, if you like, this is what my fear. I mean, there is a chunk of population, very important. They feel that there is a bubble of cultural left. They imposing their conception of the good through the proxy of the schools and things like that. Again, maybe my normativity close to normativity of cultural left, but again, I cannot impose it. This is the whole argument I do it in my paper.
I would add a remark. International Sociological Association has been so courageous that they gave an international prize a scholar, expert in gender studies, who probably has changed gender. Absolutely. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Therefore, I cannot imagine that in the advanced, modern, progressive Sweden, it's impossible to speak of these kind of things in Stockholm. And another thing I would say, I mean that once more, we have to deal with the emotional capitalism, and we have to consider that the cancel culture is not peculiar of left or of right. It is diffused. It is diffused. And perhaps we need some more explanations about this new concept of culture obsessivism, because it is new and perhaps your presentation was not so diffused about this specific topic. Sorry. Duccio.
Yeah, so I will do this.
Yeah.
First of all, thanks very much for involving me, for involving us, anyhow. I wouldn't like to screw any of you too hard, considering the time we reached, but I would like to stress your attention on your local context. Within your local context, how do social scientists and social policy scholars react to issues of discriminations and inequality, such as campaigning or criticizing natural disposition toward surrogacy among same-sex parents that over here in Italy are labeled as rainbow families? I wouldn't know the word that you use within your local context. I believe that labeling a certain group of persons as different drives us towards a drift, the entire society towards a drift that history taught us where it would bring. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Relativism, and I come to you. the problem of higher education nowadays is really the commodification. What I mean commodification is even in the public universities, they will ask you that we need to bring more students, we need to more fund. So be careful, no controversies, no say something. Just to give you example, you will understand very well cultural safetyism. 8 months ago in my university, a professor of philosophy invited his colleague, Holly Loyford Smith. She is a professor of philosophy at Melbourne University. She published a book in Oxford University Press, so it's really on gender critically feminism. And when the talk announced, a group of faculty and students, they write to Title IX. In American university, you have an office specifically to deal with any discrimination. So they try to persuade the professor. The professor is very stubborn, as a friend of mine. To say, this may affect the funding of US aid to our university. So we don't need any criticism on LGBTQ. Actually, this book is absolutely, I mean, it's written by overtly an activist, a lesbian activist, but the main thesis is to say some of transgender claims of right infringe against other feminist group. As simple as that. I mean, she is absolutely not, but how the university try to be in safe side. Okay, the same thing. To be in safe side, please don't show the students any writing that they offend them. I mean, something like that. There is a book about cuddling American kids. I mean, how the university is the title of the book. It's in my paper. I will share it with you if anyone would like to with pleasure. It's a lot of example how really it's in the name of to be in safe side. We no controversies. I mean, this is the idea. Now, thank you so much for your questions, and really I take it seriously, if you like. I'm very liberal, and I dream that one day there is zero discrimination against any group, even if this group is a 10 person, if you like. So I don't take lightly that there is a 10 person that so the issue is not here. The issue, let me start by example and come to you. Recently, I reread the book of Anthony Giddens about the transformation of intimacy. It's interesting, in page 32, in the early stage of the book, he writes something like, I'm glad that heterosexuality is not anymore a standard with which we look to sexuality. This is what he wrote. The last survey done by Bureau of Statistics in UK, showing that those who declare themselves non-heterosexual is a 3.1. This is statistics is collected in 2022 or 2023. Sorry, 2021 or 2022, I forgot. So it's a 3.1. So if you like, this is what I'm criticizing. If you like, we sociologists, we cannot, in our, I mean, what is a standard? Standard, I mean, first of all, the statement is conflating the descriptive and the normative, but in fact, is absolutely normative. I mean, what is a standard? Is it the standard is majority, the average? Is it the standard is other things? So it's not clear. So what I'm trying, if you like, here where my criticism, that in fact we need a debate in society to translate this debate into policy, what kind of curriculum we will offer to our kids, what kind of if you like, standard this is, and not to be imposed. I never heard that not to offend refugees. Take case of Lebanon. Lebanon, you have 18% of the population refugees. I never heard that not to offend 18% of refugees, Syrian and Palestinian refugees, we should not anymore talking about Lebanese. I mean, this is what I'm trying to say, that in fact, if really today we want to serve the question of no discrimination for LGBTQ community, we need really to be careful. If really the percentage is 3.1, it means that there is a sociological standard. And to be normative and to say, no, standard is another, it's not true. It's alienating people. People now vote, they don't vote anymore for Labour Party, neither in Italy nor in, so this is the consequences. I come from the left, and I want, frankly, I mean, I expose my positionality. I come from left, and I want to save the left. This is what I'm trying to say. We want really no discrimination for LGBTQ. We don't lie on people, and we say it's not anymore a standard, the heterosexuality. At least sociologically it's a standard. Even in UK. I was shocked when I learned that in UK it's a 3.1. You can, it's in my paper, you Google, it is in the official statistics of UK. So this is what I'm trying to say. We need really to keep our eye that enable difference and enable and recognize it in honest meaning, acceptance, social recognition, legal recognition. Absolutely, this is we should do it. We should do it in a specific way, not in the way that symbolic liberal are doing it. They are harming them. Now, the big fighting in feminist movement is between transgender and gay community, and not. So just now people are kicked, disinvited in Exeter and etc. They are really a lot protracted activists for women's rights. But there is a difference. Whenever you have a small difference, you are not allowed to talk in the. This is harmful. This is what I'm trying to say.
Any more?
I think everyone is tired.
Io sono commosso che voi a quest'ora, 18:57, 3 minuti alle 19, siete ancora qui? Sari, thank you so much.